His name is Horace Reynolds, 63 years old, owner of 3 hardware stores in Phoenix. And the man, in the span of one summer, kicked out his own daughter, blew up her fake marriage, and quietly moved every dollar he earned out of her reach. After discovering that his entire loving family sees him as nothing more than a walking ATM with a weak spine and a big house. This is the story of how a wedding, a set of photos, and an overheard phone call turned a proud father into the most dangerous version of himself, a man who finally stopped being afraid to say no. Before we dive in, imagine you're in Horace's shoes for a moment. Would you cut off your children if you found out they were planning to do your finances? Let me know in the comments which country or city you're hearing from, and what you will do. And if you like dark, authentic stories of family betrayal, greed, and end-of-life revenge, make sure you subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss the next one. All right, let's get started. I had drunk my first half cup of coffee when my phone rang. Tuesday morning. The house is quiet. The Arizona sun has just begun to burn through the kitchen curtains. I have a stack of open financial statements on my desk. Reynolds Hardware's quarterly numbers, 3 stores scattered across Phoenix, a lifetime of early mornings, broken knuckles, and negotiated supplier agreements lying there in neat little spreadsheets. Unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail. "Hello?" I replied. For a second, all I heard was static. Then the voice of a woman, tense and trembling around, rang out. "Mr. Reynolds, this is Caroline Thornton. I took photos of your daughter's wedding last month. Jacqueline?" My hand squeezed the phone. "Yes, of course. Caroline, is something wrong?" There is a silence, then a breath. "I need to see you. Direct. The sooner the better. And please, sir, come alone. Don't tell your daughter that I called." The atmosphere in my office changes. Do you know that feeling when a room suddenly feels too small, like walls that have just stepped in a few inches closer? That's how it feels. "What happened?" I asked. I can't explain it accurately over the phone, but I found something in the photos, something very serious. I promise I won't call if it's not important. Can you come to my studio at 9 o'clock tomorrow? Downtown Phoenix. I'll text you the address. She sounded scared and guilty. I stared at the wedding photo framed on my office wall. Jacqueline in a vibrant white suit, Samuel in a tux, hands on her back, both smiling as if their lives were beginning and nothing could touch them. "Tomorrow at 9 o'clock, I said. "I'll be there." "Thank you, Mr. Reynolds," her voice whispered. "And I'm sorry." She hung up. I sat there for a long time, the phone still pressed to my ear, my heart beating in a way that hadn't been done since my wife died. There are apologies that you hear that feel trivial. Sorry I was late, sorry I forgot to call. And then there are apologies that feel like someone just dropped a match in a room full of gas. This is the second type. "Ben!" My youngest daughter's voice came from the kitchen. "Horace, I've told you 3 times already I need a new car. My Honda is a shame. Melissa just bought a Lexus, and I can't keep showing up in that garbage. I promised to ask him today." Benjamin's laughter came from my living room. My TV, my couch, her boyfriend, 38. There are no jobs, there is no rent, there is no plan. "I'll talk to him, baby," he called back. "Relax, he just needs a little nudge." I slowly put my phone down and stared at the numbers on my laptop, but they didn't make sense anymore. Revenue, profit, payroll, cost of goods, all faded into the noise behind Caroline's words. I found something in the photos. "Come alone." Don't tell your daughter. If you want to know how a father ends up evicting his child, it never starts with an eviction notice. It started with thousands of small compromises. Wendy, my youngest sister, is 31 years old and lives in my guest house temporarily after the divorce. 4 years have passed. Somewhere along the way, temporary has turned into indefinitely. The guest house is supposed to be for grandchildren. Never have any. Only Wendy and Benjamin are placed there as a little royalty. They don't pay rent, they don't help with utilities, they don't mow the lawn or clean the pool. What they did was treat my retirement as their safety net. Dad, do you listen? Wendy stood in the doorway of my office, one hand on her hip and the phone in the other. Honda is 7 years old. 7. I can't pull to a client's lunch in that thing. I need something good. I don't know. A BMW, a Lexus, something that fits my brand. She says brand as if she's a corporation. Not my unemployed daughter who lives rent-free and posts motivational quotes on Instagram. We'll talk about it later, I said. When later, she urged. The dealer now has transactions. I can't continue to be surpassed by others. Later, Wendy. She gasped and walked, her footsteps stomping up the stairs. A bedroom door slammed shut. I went back to my computer, but my head was no longer in inventory or P&L reports. It was at a small photography studio in the center of the city, locked in by a woman's trembling voice. What could be so serious? The wedding was perfect. $65,000. That's how much money I spent on perfect. Ceremony at the Desert Botanical Garden, reception at the luxury resort, live band, gold-rimmed plates, open bar, white flowers everywhere. Jacqueline had wanted a fairy tale, and after losing her mother to cancer 5 years ago, I wanted to give her one. She is married to Samuel Fisher, tall, sleek, charming, working in finance. Everyone said he was a catcher. Jacqueline said that he made her feel safe and seen. I convinced myself that it meant something. Now a photographer told me that she found something in the photos, and it sounded as if she had stumbled upon the crime scene. Jacqueline appeared that night, as if summoned by my thoughts. Her silver Mercedes slid into my driveway at exactly 7:30. She always comes as if she's living in a calendar alert. Punctual, perfect, calm. "Hello, Dad," she said as I opened the door. She kissed my cheek, and the wind entered the house. Designer handbags on her arms. Perfectly designed blazer jackets. "I'm in the neighborhood," she lied. Paradise Valley to her apartment in Scottsdale wasn't the neighborhood, but I let it go. We sat in the living room. She crossed her legs, looked into the room, and adjusted the frame 2 degrees to the left, as if she owned the place. "Samuel and I hunted the house," she said. "We found the most incredible place in Scottsdale. 4 bedrooms, pool, mountain view. Basically, it's our dream home." "That's great," I said. "I'm happy for you." She smiled, slowly, and practiced. "The problem is, we need to move quickly. The market is currently fierce, cash offers, bidding war." And it was there. "We need help with the upfront payment," she said. $40,000. It will complete the picture. You paid for the wedding, and this is just end of the story. Help us start our lives together on the right foot. $40,000. Delivered as if she were asking if she could borrow my lawnmower. Something behind my ribs was pinched. "When do you need answers?" I asked. "The sooner the better, Dad." Her voice was only a hair sharp. "We can't lose this place. Samuel talked to the broker. I told him that he would understand, that he always took care of me." She gave me the smile that once melted me when she was 4 years old and lost 2 front teeth. Now it feels different. Let me look at a few things, I said. I'll get back to you. Her smile faltered for a fraction of a second, just long enough for me to see the discomfort flash behind her eyes. Okay, she said brightly. But don't think too long, Dad. The opportunity does not wait. She kissed my cheek again, this time lightly, and left. Through the front window, I watched her car glide by, the taillights disappearing around the corner. In the living room, Benjamin laughs at something on the TV. Wendy's voice came from upstairs, complaining to someone on FaceTime about money, about her car, about me. I stood there on my doorstep and realized something that I should have acknowledged years ago. These people don't see me as a father anymore. They see me as infrastructure, a platform to stand on, a resource for drainage. And tomorrow morning, I'll find out how deep the rot really is. Caroline's studio is located in a converted warehouse in the art district, all of exposed brick and large windows and hanging plants in inappropriate pots. She met me at the door, looking as if she hadn't slept in several days. "Mr. Reynolds," she said, folding her hands. "Thank you for coming." "Please," I said. "It's just Horace." She locked the door behind me, which didn't calm me down. "I set everything up in the editing room," she says. I barely call you, but if I were you, I'd want to know." The editing room is dim, illuminated mainly by the light of a large screen. Wedding photos cover a side wall. Smiling brides, radiant families, sunset kisses, all framed and beautiful. "Let me start by saying," she said, sitting at her desk, "your daughter's wedding was magnificent. The photos appear very beautiful. That's what I went through when I... See this." "Just show me," I said. She clicks through the first set. Standard wedding photos, ceremonies, vows, kisses, first dances. I saw all of that in the preview she sent. Then she switches folders. "These photos were taken 2 hours before the ceremony," she said quietly. "I was at the reception site early, checking the exposure on the rooftop. Shoot through the glass, adjust the light." She clicked. "Images flooding the screen are not art. That's proof." Samuel, my brand new son-in-law. In his tuxedo, the bow hangs loosely. The jacket is open, pressed on a woman with bright red hair. They don't hug each other. They didn't exchange a friendly kiss. They are devouring each other. His hand was buried in her hair, her arm locked around his neck, her body squeezed between him and the rooftop wall, in full contact, full of intent. No doubt. No ambiguity. My first thought was stupid, petty. Perhaps this is from another day, another event. Perhaps she mislabeled the folder. "How long before the ceremony?" I asked. My voice didn't sound like me. 2 hours to be exact, Caroline said. Her cursor moved, dragging up the metadata. June 14th, the timestamp is 2:07 p.m. The location card matches the reception restaurant. These are GPS coordinates. The ceremony takes place at 4 o'clock. She clicks on the next photo. Different angles, the same person, the same kiss, more. On the third image, the woman's left hand is visible near Samuel's chest. Wedding rings, not an engagement ring. A full band with a diamond is set in it. "Do you know who she is?" I asked. Caroline shook her head. "She's not on the shooting list. I checked my guest list and backup images. I don't remember seeing her with your daughter at all." She reached into the table and pulled out a small flash drive. "I exported everything," she said. "Photographs, metadata, a technical information article proving the time, date, and place. If you need to protect their authenticity, this is enough for any professional. She took it out. I stared at it as if it might bite me. You did the right thing, I said, finally accepting it. Thank you. I'm so sorry, Mr. Reynolds. Her eyes were really sad. I've never seen anything like this. Not on the wedding day. It's not like this. Me too. On the way home, the world outside my windshield looked normal. Traffic, mortar houses, palm trees bending in the heat. But my life had just fallen into a different category. This is no longer a family movie. It's a heist story, and I'm the mark. Because the question of digging its claws into my brain wasn't, how could he do this to her? It is, so why marry her? If Samuel had a wife somewhere, if the red-haired woman with that ring was nothing more than a flirtation, why throw a big wedding, full of my friends, at my expense? Why smile at the camera? Why say, I agree? Unless the wedding is not about marriage, unless it's about money. That night, I did something my daughters had never seen me do. I've been following them. Not secretly, not with cameras or trackers. I simply listen in my own home. No one bothered to lower their voices around me. I'm the surrounding noise, a line of credit for brewing coffee and paying bills. Around noon the next day, I received my first confirmation. I was walking up the stairs when I heard Wendy's voice drifting down the hallway. She had half opened the bedroom door. Loudspeaker. Dad has been weird lately, she said. But don't worry, sister. Ben and I could have extended another 6 months with ease. By then, he's going to give in and buy that apartment for us just to get rid of us. Jacqueline's voice rang out, too clear. Perfect. I have 2 months left to play the happy wife, she said casually. Then I applied. Half of those gifts are legally mine under Arizona law. Samuel agreed to divide 60 and 40. 45 easiest grands I've ever done. My hand squeezed the railing so hard that my knuckles popped out. He suspects something? Jacqueline asked. No, Wendy said, smiling softly. He's too busy feeling proud of your marriage. Honestly, it's a little sad. Well, keep him distracted, Jacqueline said. Make him think you need something big. That way, when I ask for a down payment on the house, it doesn't feel that way. It's up, Wendy replied. Cars, apartments, whatever. I'll complain until he takes and writes the check. He always does. They both laughed. I walked down the stairs step by step, my vision tunneling, the walls of the house I had bought with 40 years of sweat closing in on me. My oldest daughter was married to a man she knew had cheated on her before the ceremony. She went through the wedding for gifts and cash checks, worth $45,000, and planned to file for divorce after a respectable wait, so it wouldn't seem suspicious. My youngest daughter was camping out in my guest house, intervening, playing the poor kid so I could be appeased when the responsible married person came to ask for tens of thousands more dollars. I'm not a father. I'm the mark in a long-running family scam. That afternoon, instead of writing my daughter a check for $40,000, I opened my laptop and typed, Arizona real estate attorney protects property trust Phoenix. That's how I found Robert McKenzie. McKenzie's office is located 23 stories in a glass tower downtown, all of steel, glass, and money. His nameplate has been underrated. His handshake was very firm. His hair grew gray exactly at the temples like a TV lawyer. Mr. Reynolds, he said. You mentioned on the phone that family complications. That's a way to express it, I said, placing the manila folder on his desk. Inside were photographs of Caroline, some handwritten notes, and a spreadsheet from the wedding budget. I presented it the way I posed an inventory problem for a new manager. Clear, calm, with numbers attached. I paid about $65,000 for my daughter's wedding, I said. This man. I tapped Samuel in the face in one of the photos, kissing another woman 2 hours before the ceremony. I have evidence that my daughter knew about the affair, was married to him anyway, and planned to divorce him for 2 months just to keep half of the gifts. Mackenzie's jaw clenched. My other daughter, I continued, has been living in my guest house with her boyfriend for 4 years. Do not rent, do not rent. I overheard them laugh about extending their stay until I bought them an apartment just to get them out. He listened without interrupting, taking notes with a neat hand. I don't want to strip them of their inheritance out of hatred, I said. I want to protect what I've built. I want the hardware store, my house, my savings in a structure that they can't manipulate. I want my youngest child out of the house. And I want my oldest child to understand that the bank she thinks she robbed has been closed. Mackenzie nodded slowly. In Arizona, he said, you're in a strong position. Without a written lease, your young daughter and her boyfriend are essentially guests. You can send them a 30-day eviction notice, and if they don't leave, dismiss them as trespassers. He pulled a thick cover from the shelf and flipped over to a page with a flag, flipping it toward me. Here, renting a house. If they do not have a lease or lease record, they do not have the right to rent. It's clean. What about the rest? I asked. That's where an indestructible belief comes in, he said. We transfer ownership of your home, business, and account into a trust that you control while you're alive. When you die, distributions follow your instructions, not the default inheritance rules. If you're done when you're clearly competent, as you are, it's extremely difficult to challenge. He gave his fee, $8,500 for eviction, the creation of a trust fund, and a new will. I thought of the grand wedding of 65, 45,000 gifts, years of living freely in my guest house, weekend spas, repair the car, the endless phrase, Dad, can you help us just this once? Do it, I said. Everything. He slipped an engagement deal on the table. I read every line. 40 years of business have taught me that part of responsibility is to read what you sign. I signed at the bottom. He re-signed. Mr. Reynolds, he said carefully, once we begin this, there is no half-hearted measure. Your daughters will probably never see you in the same way again, if they keep you in their lives. I thought of Wendy's laughter on the stairs. He's always giving in. I thought of Jacqueline's voice on the speaker. 45 easiest grands I've ever made. They didn't see me as a father, I said. They see me as a strategist. Game-changing. He nodded. I'm going to have an eviction notice ready on Friday, he said. Serve them directly. Start the clock. And we're going to start the trust paperwork right away. Friday night, I walked into my living room with 2 envelopes that could have been grenades. Wendy and Benjamin were exactly where I knew they would be. On my couch, on the TV, in my space. Benjamin put his foot on my coffee table. Wendy rolled up her phone. Hey, old man, Benjamin said without looking up. Do you mind getting me another beer? I put both envelopes on the table. What is this? Wendy asked, picking up her hand. Formal eviction notice, I said. I have 30 days to find another place to stay. Her laughter was halfway off her throat. She tore open the envelope, her eyes sweeping over the headline, followed by the words in bold. Dad, what is this? Her voice said. How are you chasing us? Benjamin tore the envelope, his face flushed as he read. "You can't do this," he scoffed. "We've been here for 4 years. This is our home." "This is my home," I said quietly. "You have been guests. Guests don't pay rent." The guests mocked me behind my back. "The law says you have 29 days left." "You're crazy," Wendy said, tears immediately welling up. "You're just throwing your daughter out on the street? After everything I've been through?" I'm not screaming. I don't explain. I just said, "Start packing," and walked back to my office, closing the door behind me. As the latch clicked, I heard Wendy's voice moan and Benjamin exploded into curses. I sat down at my desk and opened my notebook, jotting down their first reactions, the exact timing, the tone. Not because I doubt myself, but because this is war, and in war, you keep records. That night, Wendy called Jacqueline. I know because she doesn't mind lowering her voice. "He gave us the deportation papers," she sobbed. 30 days. He's lost his mind." There was a silence, and then Jacqueline's tone flashed, cold and sharp. "Okay, calm down. We will come tomorrow. Bring Samuel. We need to talk to him together. He can't do this." Same, naturally. They always like to hunt in packs. The family intervention dinner is a show worth watching. Jacqueline and Samuel arrived first the next day, their hands full of grocery bags. "Dad, we're cooking tonight," Jacqueline announced. "You work too hard. Let us spoil you once." Wendy and Benjamin walked out of the guest house a few minutes later. Wendy in a soft sweater and leggings, perfect hair, eyes puffy enough to signal fragile but trying. Benjamin with the expression, "The man has his best responsibility." The meal was delicious. I would give it to them. Roast chicken, potatoes, salad. They poured me a glass of wine, laughed too much, complimented my house. After that, Jacqueline went to kill. "Dad," she began, putting down her fork. "We're all worried about Dad. This house is huge. Garden work, maintenance, stress of the enterprise. It's a lot for a person." Samuel nodded seriously. "We've talked about options," he said. "The truth is, you're sitting on a gold mine here. If you sell this place at the peak of the market, you can move into a nice apartment, relax, let go of responsibilities. And with the money raised," Jacqueline added gently, "you can help us all get a solid foundation. Help Wendy and Ben get started. Help Samuel and I pay down for our dream home. Everyone wins." Wendy leaned over, her voice soft and worried. "Dad, we're not saying you have to do anything. We're just worried about you being alone here. What if something happens and there's no one around?" It's there. Not subtle, not elegant. It's just greed wrapped up in false concern. I took a slow sip of water, put the glass down, and looked at each sip one by one. "Before we talk about what I should do with my house," I said, "there's one thing I want you to see." I slid a manila folder onto the table, right in front of Jacqueline. "What is this?" she asked. "Photos from your wedding," I said. "Caroline gave them to me. Pay attention to timestamps." She opened the folder, turned the first page, and froze it. On top, I placed the most obvious photo. Samuel pressed into the red-haired woman's mouth, her hand with the wedding ring stretched out to his chest. Samuel's face was as depleted as someone had unplugged it. "I can explain," he began. "No," I said. "You can't." They were taken 2 hours before the ceremony, at the reception location. Metadata, GPS, and timestamps are attached. The photographer didn't go looking for this. "It's in the back when she's testing exposure." Wendy glared at her brother-in-law. "What the hell, Sam? I ignored her. And to make it clear to all of us, I continued, I also heard two of you, I nodded to Wendy, on the phone last week. 2 more months and I applied. Half of the gifts are legitimate. Samuel agreed to 60-40. 45,000 is the easiest I've ever done. Those were his exact words, Jacqueline. Do you want me to play the recording? Jacqueline's eyes cut to her sister, then to Samuel, then to me. Her face stiffened. Are you listening to my private conversations? She said. You've been watching me? Yes, I said. Once. Benjamin pushed back from the table, his anger rising. That doesn't change the fact that you're kicking your daughter out with nowhere to go. What kind of father does that? The kind of person, I said quietly, who finally understands the difference between love and blackmail. I pulled another document from my pocket and placed it next to the photos. This is a summary of the irrevocable mandate that I signed this morning, I said. My house, my business, my account, they're no longer in my name as a simple real estate. They are located in a structure that you cannot manipulate, dispute, or drain. When I die, the legal minimum will be yours. The rest will go to charities and causes of my choice. You've lost the right to expect more. You can't do that. Jacqueline was startled, the mask now completely removed. We are your blood. I can, I said, standing up. And I have. Wendy's face wrinkled. Dad, you're overreacting. We joked on the phone. I know how you talk, Benjamin interrupted. This is crazy. We can object to this. Say you don't have the right mind. This will make you look crazy to people. Good luck with that, I said. My cognitive assessment from last month has been archived with my lawyer. Full capacity. There is no deterioration. I walked off the table. You've got 15 days left in my house, I said to Wendy and Benjamin. Use them for packaging, not for planning. Then I went down the hallway to my office and locked the door. Behind me, chaos erupted. They screamed, they cry, they cursed, they threaten. I poured myself a glass of water, sat down at my desk, and opened an email from Mackenzie. The trust has been completed. The sheriff scheduled an eviction backup on the 30th if needed. I smiled for the first time in weeks. The last 2 weeks before the deportation were a slow little war. They knocked everything over by accident. They slammed the door. They called their neighbors to tell them that their cruel father had thrown them out. Mrs. Patterson at the house next door caught me in the driveway one afternoon. Horace, she said softly, Wendy told me you were asking them to leave. Is everything okay? Everything's fine, I said. And yes, it's time for her to stand on her own 2 feet. She seemed to want to say more, then think better. People always want to evaluate decisions that they don't have to accept. Jacqueline tried one more play. She appeared with a psychologist one afternoon, a woman with a clipboard and a soft voice. Dad, said Jacqueline, this is Dr. Morrison. We're just a little worried about some recent decisions. Sudden changes like these can be a sign of something deeper. We thought maybe talking to someone might be helpful. Dr. Morrison smiled professionally. Mr. Reynolds, his daughters are worried about the change in behavior. It's not strange at your age because... I raised my hand. This session is over, I said. Have a good day, doctor. Jacqueline, go home. Daddy, you're stubborn, Jacqueline said harshly. We're trying to help you. No, I said. You're trying to build a paper trail to challenge my mental state and attack my beliefs later. I watched that game. Your attorney should tell you that I have a cognitive assessment on file. Her face was flushed. You're going to regret it, she said. You're going to get old and lonely. It's better to be alone, I said, than to be surrounded by people who just show up with bills. She left. I closed the door. Wendy tried a final show 3 days ahead of schedule. She walked into my office looking petite and round-shouldered. Dad, she said softly, I've thought about everything. About Ben. About the way we lived. You're right. She twisted a tissue in her hand, her eyes sparkling. I'm going to leave him, she said. I'm going to get a job. I'm going to start paying rent. I need you. Content. Don't make me go. If I had heard that a year earlier, maybe even 6 months earlier, it might have worked. But now I saw the calculation behind her eyes. I've heard her laugh about extending this time by another 6 months. I had read Benjamin's offer to continue living in my house if I invested $50,000 in his imaginary brewery. If you're really willing to change, I said quietly, you won't bargain. You will apologize without asking for anything. Her expression changed from heartbreak to anger in half a second. Okay, she spat out. Throw us out. But when you're lying on the floor and there's no one there to help, remember that you chose this. She slammed the door behind her. I did, I said to the empty room. And once I chose me. Day 30. I met the sheriff's deputy on the driveway at 10 a.m. Mackenzie was standing right behind him, briefcase in hand. Mr. Reynolds, Deputy Martinez said, shaking my hand. We talked on the phone. We're going to do this quickly. We went to the front door together. I knocked on the door. Benjamin's voice echoed through the forest. Let's go. Sir, this is the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, Martinez said. Open the door now, or I'll open the door myself, and this will become a criminal trespass. After a long pause, the lock clicked. Wendy opened the door a few inches. Her eyeliner was smudged. I can't. Martinez stepped forward, pushing the door open all the way. You received a lawful eviction notice 30 days ago, he said. You chose not to leave. You now have 2 hours to gather your personal belongings, clothing and personal items only. Furniture and fixtures stay with the hotel. Time starts now. 2 o'clock? Wendy shouted. We can't. You have 30 days, Mackenzie said calmly. This is courtesy, not negotiation. Benjamin burst into the room, his fists clenched. These are the males, he began. Martinez changed his stance just enough to remind people that he has weapons and isn't particularly interested in debates. I'd focus on packing if I were you, he said. 2 hours passed quickly. What follows looks like a disaster in a fast forward. Wendy stuffed her clothes in a garbage bag, cried and screamed, said things like, after everything we've done for you. Which was funny, because I can't think of a single bill she paid. Benjamin stomped around, muttering curses, stuffing random things into a duffel bag. At one point, he accidentally knocked over a lamp. It hit the floor and shattered. He didn't apologize. I didn't react. In the midst of the chaos, Wendy tries to faint one last time. She fell on the couch, her hands on her chest. I can't breathe, she gasped. Dad, call an ambulance. This tension is killing me. Martinez didn't blink. If you need a paramedic, I'll call one, he said. They'll treat you, then you'll keep packing. How is this eviction happening? Wendy sat up quickly and turned around and put her shoes in her pockets. 2 hours later, they stepped out of their dilapidated sedan. The rear seats and trunk are filled with garbage bags and boxes. No more talking about BMW and Lexus. No more weekend spas. At the car, Wendy turns around and throws her last dart. "You're going to die alone in this house," she shouted. "You don't dare call me when it happens." "I won't," I said. Benjamin flipped me over, then climbed into the driver's seat. The car coughed loudly and rolled down the street, out of my neighborhood, out of my daily life. They don't look back. Martinez handed me one last piece of paper. "They're officially deported," he said. "If they come back without your permission, call us. It's going to be intrusive." "Thanks," I said. "And I mean it." Mackenzie shook my hand. "Not many people see this," he said. "Most of the caves are on the 29th. You've done well, Horace." After they left, I stood in the middle of the living room and listened. Silence. There was no TV coming from the next room. No big FaceTime calls. There are no passive-aggressive cabinet bangs. There are no other people's cars in my driveway. Only quiet. My silence. My home. That peace is enough. But life has a funny way of throwing you a good thing after a long storm, if you're stubborn enough to stand in it. 3 weeks later, on a mild August morning, I sat on the back terrace with a cup of coffee and looked out over Paradise Valley. The commission has been completed. My business interests lie under professional management. My will has been rewritten. Every account beneficiary form has been updated. My phone rang. Unknown number. "This is Horace," I replied. "Mr. Reynolds?" said one woman. "Hello, this is Caroline Thornton, the photographer at Jacqueline's wedding. I hope I've called and it's okay." "Caroline," I said. "Of course. Are you okay?" "I'm fine," she said. I've been thinking about you a lot since that day in my studio. Show you those photos. I was worried that I might have made a mistake, that I blew up your family for nothing. I need to know how you're doing." I looked out over the desert, the sun turning the rocks into gold. "You didn't blow anything up," I said. "You just turned on the lights in a room that caught fire." She was silent for a second, then smiled softly. "I'm glad you see it that way," she said. "I've never called a client like this before. There's something about you that sticks with me." "Caroline," I said, surprised to myself, "can I buy you a coffee someday? I owe you at least that. And honestly, it's great to talk to someone who doesn't have a perspective." Her smile appeared over the phone. "I want that," she said. "Next week?" "Next week," I agreed. After we hung up, I sat there for a while, just breathing. My daughters are not in my daily life. They were somewhere, living in small apartments, arguing with ex-husbands and boyfriends, telling anyone who listened how cruel their father was. Perhaps in many years, something will change. Maybe they will grow up. Maybe one day they will show up at my door with a sincere apology instead of marriage proposals. Maybe. But here's the last thing I understood at the age of 63. You can love someone but still refuse to let them ruin you. I picked up my old man's beginner guitar, something I'd always wanted to learn and never had time for when I was busy funding other people's dreams, and awkwardly worked through a few chords. My fingers hurt. My heart doesn't. For the first time in a very long time, my life was quiet, honest, and mine. Do not rent, not borrowed, not being held hostage by sin, only beak. If you're listening to this thought, that could never be my baby. I hope you're right. But what if a small part of you hears Wendy's voice or Jacqueline's laughter and recognizes something? Let this story be your warning and permission. You are not a retirement plan. You are not a walking will. You are not a debt that your child has to collect. You are a human being. You're allowed to say no. You are allowed to protect what you have built. Even from your own blood. Especially from your own blood. If this story happens too close to home, I'd love to hear from you. Let me know in the comments. Did you do what Horace did? Have you ever had to cut off your family to protect your peace? If you feel anything in this story, anger, sadness, relief, please like this video. It requires the algorithm to show it to more people who may need to listen to it. And if you want more dark, cinematic stories about family, betrayal, and end-of-life justice told in this slow, contemplative style, subscribe to the channel and turn on all notifications so you never miss the next story.